Welcome, I'm the Deadwood Jedi. This is going to be another Raid Shadow Legends video. We're going to be doing another step-by-step series. I've got a full account takeover for Rankin, and yeah, I figured we go through and take every step-by-step, try to improve all of his stuff, and you can kind of see the process that I go to make this happen. And whenever I'm first looking at an account, I always start with Clan Boss. It's the most important part of this game. We want to be able to get those ultimate rewards, those shards, so we can get more champs, and you know, the books, of course, so we can book those champs and all of that. Doesn't matter how high end, how much you spend on this game, you still want those free rewards, and Clan Boss is going to give you the best rewards in this game. So it's the most important thing. I'm more content to use my best gear on that to start, and then, you know, make whatever teams I can for the rest of this game out of whatever gear I have left. And I think that's the most important way to go. You get great gear as Immortal and Cruel sets out of Clan Boss. You get the shards, you get the books. It has to be the #1 thing we do, and that's what we're going to do today. So let's take a look. Now, as always with these things, the people that are coming to me generally are going to spend a little bit of money on this game. The work I do isn't free, unfortunately, because it takes so much time. So we're not going to be looking at a, you know, completely new account. So you're not going to be able to take like, oh, what do I do if I only have rare or epic champions? That's not going to be here. But what you should hopefully be able to do is take the approach that I'm taking with these teams and how you want to go building your squad. If you're interested in how I did this before, you can see up here some of the thumbnails from the previous step-by-step series that I did before. A lot of people found that helpful because I talk about the way we go about doing this. And the first thing I'm going to do when I look at this account is check out the champions and see what I have to work with. Now, the champions aren't the most important thing. It's actually the gear, but I do need an understanding of what I have available for me as far as the skills that I'm going to be able to use. And obviously on this account, we have a lot of available champions, right? There's plenty of champions here that I can choose from, lots of legendaries, lots of epics, and this is great because it gives me a lot of options as far as approaches to go ahead and building one of these teams. But this isn't the deciding factor. The deciding factor is actually the gear, because I can cobble together most any team out of, you know, the epics, the rares that we have in this game that can usually get to around a 2-key Ultra Nightmare if the gear allows it, and that's always the big thing. With the champions he has, we could easily build a 1-key type of team, a Bat Eater at the very least with 2 Man-Eaters on this account, but we don't have the gear to get to those speeds, and that's definitely going to be impactful. And I do want to keep in mind, I do need to work on other areas of the game, right? So I don't want to take all of the best gear necessarily if I can avoid it and still come up with a solid team. So after looking at the account, I was pretty clear. We're going to be able to get a 2-key Ultra Nightmare team, but 1 key is going to be a real challenge. So I went in, and you can see when we look at this stuff, one of the first things I'm looking for is I'm looking for the equipment, and I'm looking for what has speed in it specifically. Another thing I like to do is look at specific pieces, the bottom pieces especially. So I'm talking about crit damage gloves. This is really going to be able to shoot up our damage, but there's not that many with 6 stars. Now, he has a fair amount. There's actually more gear on this account than I get with a lot of these, and so this isn't a bad place to start. I'm going to be able to put crit damage gloves on most of my champions that I need to. That's great. It's going to really allow me to make my dungeon waves a lot faster, my Clan Boss team do a heck of a lot more damage. So that's all Gucci.
What he say?
Gucci, right? I'm really happy with that. The other thing I want to look at are, especially with the chests and the boots, I want to see what we have as far as HP percentage, attack percentage, and defense percentage, because those are the ones that are really going to bump our stats up. A lot of people have flat stats on these, and you really don't want to do it. Flat stats are auto sells pretty much always. There's a couple small exceptions, but generally you're going to want to sell those flat stats right off the jump. The real only exception is that they're in a speed set with the speed substat, and maybe you can get a really high roll, because, you know, sometimes for arena you just want to go fast, doesn't matter what the other stats are. But generally, yeah, that's what we're looking for. Thankfully, we have a few of them, right? We don't have a ton, though, and that definitely limits our ability to make these teams, because not only do we have to have those main stats like we want, but we also have to have the crit rate underneath it. We have to need the speed underneath it to really get to the builds that we want to do. And you can see there's a wide range of sets. There's nothing with a heck of a lot of these available. We've got 4 chess pieces, and a bunch of them are 5-star in perception. This isn't really going to allow us the flexibility to build crazy, crazy strong teams. So I knew going into that was definitely going to be an issue for us. And those are generally the things I'm looking at first. So with that in mind, I decided to build a 2-key Ultra Nightmare team that could be used for Nightmare as well. It's not full auto, but it's pretty close, so this shouldn't be hard for him to run whatsoever. So let's go ahead and look at the team and we can talk about that here. I really appreciate you coming by to watch this video, and if you enjoy it, don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below, the notification bell so you don't miss the next one. And of course, if you enjoyed today's music, we have that Soundstripe link down below in the pinned comment description of this video, along with my code Deadwood Jedi to save yourself 15%. And of course, if you're looking for account work, you can find that on my website, deadwoodjedi.com. Now, like I said, there were a ton of options as far as champions I could use and teams I could build with this, but I felt like the best bet would be to go with something simple, as little manual as possible, so get the full auto pretty quickly, and this is a team that can do that for us, and I think it's going to be really good. We have Sir Nicholas giving us an unkillable ability, and we have Demytha also giving us unkillable. Between the two of them, we're going to stay alive for the full fight, right? This is basically a slow tower team, slow tower unkillable, or tower skull crusher unkillable. The same thing as a slow Hellcat build. The only difference is, instead of Hellcat or instead of tower, we're going to be using Sir Nicholas, and this actually works really good, and I would say is preferred if you have a Geomancer you're trying to put in your team, because Geomancer obviously reflects the damage your team takes. Well, when you're blocking the damage, that's a 0. You still get the Giant Master procs from his passive ability, so you're not losing a lot of damage, but you are losing some. Bringing in Sir Nicholas with the unkillable ability, not block damage, allows us to take all the damage from the AoEs and Geomancer to reflect that back. That's going to be really good for us. So that was one of the choices I made there. One of the reasons why I brought in Demytha, when there are a bunch of options we could have used for that last slot to block the damage for the stun, the reason why I went with Demytha is because she also extends the duration of buffs. That's going to allow us to stay completely affinity friendly in a much easier type of team build, and it's going to work really nicely for us. You'll notice there's no poisons in this team, so what did I do? I put Sir Nicholas in Toxic, I put Demytha in Toxic, and that's going to give us a pretty full debuff bar for the entirety of the fight. Martyr, especially with the counterattack, is going to give us that decreased defense, and Geomancer is going to give us the weaken in addition to his HP burn. Between those champions, we're going to have all the debuffs blocked. Now, we have Tatura Rhyhide in here, and I had options, right? We could have gone with a Riho, could have gone with a couple of different champions, but the reason why I went with Tatura is going to give us increased defense, which is just going to make her and Martyr hit a heck of a lot harder. Him and Martyr hit a lot harder. In addition to that, Tatura can block those debuffs on a 2-turn duration. Even with the Demytha, that's just going to help guarantee that we don't take any debuffs throughout the fight. We'll stay affinity friendly no matter the difficulty that we're facing. So this is, I think, the ideal team here. Like I said, we had lots of options, but I'm also looking and trying to figure out where else are we going to be utilizing these champions in the builds that we're going to be going with going forward. Now, obviously, Geomancer is great everywhere, but Martyr doesn't have a ton of utility outside of Clan Boss. Tatura doesn't have a ton of utility outside of Clan Boss. Same thing with Demytha. Same thing with Sir Nicholas. So outside of maybe Hydra, we're not going to really utilize those other champions. And so for now, I thought this would be the best way to do it, right? When it comes to Hydra, an account that isn't ready to really push 1-key Ultra Nightmare, we're not getting crazy numbers on Hydra anyway, so I'm not too concerned about that. Obviously, I'd prefer to keep Geo out of it, but I wanted to make sure we can do as much good on Clan Boss as we can to start, and then we can start to build elsewhere as our gear improves on this account. In the next few videos, I'll be tackling the different dungeons, and so we can approach that in those ways, and that'll be really nice. But right now, all I care about is Clan Boss. And so that's kind of the approach that I took. I turned off Martyr's A3, even though it hit super hard. I don't want the extra debuff. With Demytha, we're starting with the A2, then going into the A3. This is for Ultra Nightmare. Nightmare, these skills change. The order changes just a little bit. Sir Nicholas, we're going to prioritize that A3 ability, and you have to do that. That'll make sure that he puts that unkillable up at the start, right before every AoE, and keeps us alive. Tatura, we're prioritizing the block debuff skill. Have to do that because it's on a 3-turn cooldown. Otherwise, everything kind of gets all screwy, so we need to prioritize that. And then Geomancer, we're turning off the A2. I want the Clan Boss to have that increased attack buff if he puts it on himself. We don't need that skill. We can rely on the A1 to do damage for us, and mainly the A3 is going to be doing the work for us here. So I've tried to build everybody as well as I could, and I think I got a pretty solid build out of all these champions. Considering the gear we have, I was actually pretty impressed with what we were able to put together here. Obviously, if we can get more speed gear on this account, then we can start pushing for 2-1 ratio teams that can really, try to take Ultra Nightmare down in one go. I don't think we didn't quite have the speeds to make that happen today, but in the future, that's where this account's going to go. So anyway, that's the team. Let's go ahead and do the run. We'll show the stats afterwards. Just a quick note about the blessings before we go into the run. I do want to point out, I did change Martyr's Blessing to the Brimstone, the Smite ability. It is going to be the hardest hitting skill that we can bring into Clan Boss if you only have one. There are a few others that do a really good job that you do want to bring in eventually, but considering we only have one person with any Ascension, that's the one that's going to really work with us here for this. I think that's going to be our best choice. Obviously, things like Crushing Rend will be really good going forward in the future, but right now, this is going to be the one. So I did make that small change here just to give us a little bit more damage. So let's jump in. All right, as we go into the run, I have it pretty much set up on auto. So I have everybody's first turns already set up. So I don't have to do anything manual-wise till the Clan Boss takes her second turn. But I do need to set up Martyr's counterattack. I need to set up Geomancer's HP burn so that we get the maximum benefit out of that, because we don't get any benefits if those aren't up at the right time. Because of that, I do need a manual a little bit, and this is where it's going to happen. With Geomancer, I need an A1 right here so that he'll do the HP burn before the AoEs. That ensures that they're up for the AoEs and we get the maximum reflect damage as a result of that. With Tatura here, it doesn't matter, A1, A3. I'm just trying to get through that so I can get to Martyr. Same thing, A1 with Sir Nicholas. And now we get to Martyr. I want an A1 here, get that decreased defense out again, and save the counterattack for the AoEs. And so that's all done. I can click auto now, don't have to touch it again, and this is going to run for the full 50 turns. Demytha obviously blocks that damage from the Clan Boss. She's also going to extend the duration of the buff, so you can see Martyr's got the counterattack up, we've got the HP burn on, and now everybody's taking their counterattack, so we get a lot of damage out of this just from the counterattack. One of the reasons why I actually love Martyr for Clan Boss these days, especially with an unkillable team. You can see that block, the unkillable goes up from Sir Nicholas. We'll be in sync on turn 6, not yet. But Demytha here extends the duration of those buffs. So that block debuff from Tatura, the counterattack from Martyr, all gets extended so that we're going to be in perfect shape here for the stun. Now, because of that counterattack getting extended, Martyr's not going to be targeted, Tatura's not going to be targeted, and Geomancer's not going to be targeted, which means it's going to go to Sir Nicholas or it's going to go to Demytha. Those are the two people that are going to take that stun as a result of that. One of the reasons why we do need to extend the duration of that block debuff from, Tatura, to make sure that neither of them actually get stunned, because if they get stunned, it's all bad news for us. But at this point, we are fully in sync. We have counterattack up on everybody. Everything's working perfectly, and it's easy breezy from here on out. We should get a nice, good result. I'm guessing we're going to get somewhere close to about 50, maybe even 55 million damage total at the end of this, which is a pretty darn good 2-key team, right? With room to improve, easily. Lots of room to improve on the squad as well. So let's go ahead. We'll jump towards the end here. I'll let you guys listen to a little bit of music. there we go. 58.85 million. I mean, that's almost 60 million, and that's not so bad. That's not too shabby, I'd say. In fact, I think that actually should get even better as we get into Affinity. This was Void, right? Geomancer does even more damage when we're facing Affinity because there are multi-hits coming in, so he gets a better chance of actually reflecting it. So definitely, I think this could actually be a 1-key if the Affinity's right. I definitely could see that happening. Probably against Force, maybe even against Spirit, we could get a 1-key out of this. So that's not too shabby, I would say. Pretty good overall. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. Okay, let's take a look at the champions we've got. We're going to start it off with Martyr, who's obviously an amazing champion. I think really the best champion for unkillable teams generally. Like if you have multiple DPS options, brings decreased defense, brings increased defense for extra damage from any defensive-based champions, and that counterattack is nice. You get free counterattacks. That's great. I love that. Really, really good. It has a nice aura, too, as well. But you can see we got 176 speed, so she's not the slowest. We need Demytha to be that to block all the damage, but she's right. She's pretty close to that. I think she's the second slowest on this team, allowing that counterattack to stay up for everybody throughout the fight. That's really the key with having her at that speed specifically. And this really only works because we have Demytha in the fold. Good accuracy, actually pretty good crit damage considering the level of this account and the gear that I had available. Very happy with that. Still getting 100% crit rate and pretty solid defense too. Then we have Demytha, who is really going to make this team work as smoothly as it does. She's not essential, but she does make it work really, really nice. Obviously 173 speed. So she's the slowest on this team. I don't really want to go below 173. 171 I think actually works, and I think that is the lowest I can go. But I generally try to keep between like 173 and 174 speed is really the ideal spot for this. Otherwise, yeah, she's going to be great. We got the 100% crit rate, good crit damage on her too. I was really impressed that I was able to put that on her. Not a lot of attacks. She's a really low base anyway, and she doesn't do a lot of damage. She has hardly any attacks. But we did give her a toxic set, and that is going to help add to the damage that we're doing overall. Between her and Sir Nicholas, we keep a pretty full debuff bar throughout the fight. So having an extra person with that is definitely beneficial, and she's a good second person because most of her attacks are actually coming from counterattack. She doesn't have a lot of main attacks, so it helps prevent us from overfilling the debuff bar, which is definitely a concern when you have multiple people with toxic on. And then we have Sir Nicholas. Now with Sir Nicholas, obviously the fastest on this comp, 247 speed. Anywhere between like 245 and 248 generally will work. I think you might even be able to go a little bit faster than that. But he's going to be in really good shape here. We did get 100% crit rate. Obviously, you couldn't build a crit damage gloves on him. Just at this speed, it's not available in the gear that we have. But in general, I thought pretty good. Obviously, as this account grows, we're going to be able to up that HP, increase his damage with more crit damage as well. And that's going to be only beneficial. But because I knew we weren't going to be able to put up crazy damage numbers with him in the raw form, that's why I put Toxic Set on him as well, because that's only going to make us a stronger approach here, right? So if we're not getting the raw damage out of him, at least we can get the Toxic from him. And that allows us to build the DPS champions a lot more DPS heavy. Speaking of DPS champions, we have Tatura Rhymehide. Obviously an incredible champion. One of the benefits, not only do we get block debuffs, we get increased defense, but on top of that, we get good raw damage from Tatura as well if we build him up right. Now, we got a lot of defense on him, good speed right at 176, is faster than Martyr. That is why Martyr is going after Tatura, and that's good. Now, you might go, wait a minute, but we have to block all the debuffs. This is where Demytha comes in, being able to extend the duration of that 2-turn block debuff, so it will cover everybody, even those that go after Tatura, for the stun as well as the affinity debuffs. Very key to making this work, I feel like. Good crit rate. Crit damage obviously could be a little bit higher. I'm not super thrilled with that, but it's not a bad number. Now, this Tatura is not built to do other content. We don't have any accuracy. We don't have any resistance. Definitely not somebody I would want to take into other areas of the game at this point, because we do have them built primarily just for clan boss here. But because of that, we're going to get pretty good numbers out of them. And then very last, we have Geomancer, who is obviously an amazing champion. You can continue to build the attack up, as it is a fairly low number right now, but the speed is good. Going fastest in this comp, doesn't really matter where he goes. The only thing we're looking to do is get that weekend up, to get that HP burn up, and he's going to be pretty consistent about that. So actually having him go first is good, because we're not getting those debuffs off his A1 like we do with somebody like Martyr. We do need the accuracy, and we got that at a good spot. Crit damage is good. You can see we Did the crit rate again. The gear's limited, so I wasn't able to trim that crit rate off and put it in somewhere else. And I just figured, hey, this is working, why mess with it, right? So I had to work with what I had. I thought this was a pretty good result overall. That was a really good result. I'm very happy with that. I think whenever you can 2-key Ultra Nightmare, 1-key Nightmare, that is a great result. 3 keys and you're done for the day, in my opinion. You can even have a 4th one if you want to take down Brutal as well. So there's a lot I liked about this. Obviously, there's room to improve this. We can always get more ascensions, right? Or, and that's always going to help us up as well, adding some more of those blessings to our champions. Not to mention just improving the gear that we have on them, upping the crit damage, upping our Great Haul would be a good step as well. All those things could, I think, actually take this team, which is 2-key Ultra Nightmare right now, and make it a 1-key. As it is, this might 1-key anyway on Force and Spirit Affinity, just due to the multi-hits that are coming in from the boss. So there's a lot of potential for this team. I think it's actually pretty dang good as it is. But that's what we did. Step by step. This is the first step. Get your clan boss team done. That's absolutely the most important thing. Now, if you need help doing that, you're more than welcome to come down to my website, sign up for some account services. I have a whole team that helps me work on this stuff, and people tend to be pretty happy with it. So if that's something you're interested in, please feel free to stop by my website, deadwoodjedi.com. Obviously, subscribe if you guys enjoyed this content so you see more of it. I've done this before. I'm going to be doing it again, so make sure to check out some of my previous videos too if you found this interesting, and you get a preview of what we're going to be doing as we go through with this account right here. Soundstripe link is down below. Guys, till next we meet, I'm the Deadwood Jedi.